It's time for ACC Central, presented by College Baseball Central. Hosted by Monty Taylor, Micah Butel, and Nick Dioli.
Welcome back, college baseball fans, to another episode, another preview episode. We're going with the Louisville Cardinals here. Still no Nick Dioli. If you've seen him, we've actually started putting some missing signs on milk cartons. If people still do that, so give Micah a call at. No, I'm just kidding.
540.
Nick will hopefully be back with us soon. But in the meantime, we'll
be back for NC State conveniently enough.
Yeah, conveniently. But here we've got Micah, who is excited about his Louisville Cardinals.
I get to spend Valentine's Day with basically the love of my life. So, I mean,
I just got thrown because I completely forgot about that they're going to Texas, because I was like, you're going to Kentucky for yep. But
yeah,
we'll get into that.
Yeah, you want to hear a quick funny story, Monty? I think you'll like this. You'll find this pretty funny. You want to hear a funny story or no? I mean, we don't have to have fun banter if you want to.
Are we gonna take time here? Like, go tell your story.
Probably about a minute.
No, I know, but the fact that we're going back and forth about it is what I was joking out the story itself. Go ahead and tell the story.
Anyways, so I had posted, there's no better way to spend your, like, if they're not going to spend Valentine's Day with you at Globe Life Park, then they're probably not the one. Well, some Texas girl slid into my DMs and was like, there's nothing better than Texas baseball and a Texas girl on Valentine's Day. To which I sent her back the picture of me, or I took it for some reason, some stupid mirror selfie when I was there doing this with the Louisville shirt on. No, I had the Louisville gear on. I said, well, I hate to break it to you, but I'm cheering for Louisville. And if I had to pick a Texas girl, I'd pick an Aggie. And let's just say that did not go over very well. So anyways, Louisville, I love you so much. I'm fending off girls in my DMs for you, so you're welcome.
Is that the opposite of Riz?
Probably, honestly. I mean,
look at me. I'm hello, fellow kids.
So yeah, if you want to shoot your shot in my DMs, I'm probably going to be a jerk back to you. It's going to be great. But
that's pretty funny.
Honestly, respect to the girl though, because like that was actually a pretty smooth line. But for whatever reason, the day that she sent that, I was just in the mood to be a sarcastic little, we'll bleep out the word that I'd say there. But yeah.
Don't slide into Micah's DMs, apparently. But
I'm all about the Cards, both Lamar and Louisville.
There you go.
College World Series final, if it can't be Georgia Tech and, whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Or go down the list of my favorite teams, because remember, your favorite team is my favorite team.
There we go. Let's get into some key departures. It gets a little crowded on this list, probably a little too crowded. Dylan Hoy, Ryan McCoy, JT Benson, Isaac Humphrey, Luke Napleton, Logan Beard, Gavin Keelan, they're all gone. So is a lot of the pitching staff.
You graduate and you go to the portal, and you graduate and you go to the portal. Everybody's graduating, you're going to the portal.
Yeah. What's the biggest loss on this list? I think it's kind of somewhat easier to kind of point this one out than it has been for some previous teams, but they did get some transfers to replace this person. But who do you think's
I'm assuming you're saying Gavin Keelan.
I think so.
I was like, because I think the other thing too, like Monty, I don't know how you view biggest departure, but like my brain always goes like midway, like if come middle of April, my brain's thinking, well, this is the last we have of them anyways. Not that I don't consider them a big departure, but like if you graduate, like we knew Sebastian Gongora was probably gone. So like, right. Not to say that it's not a big loss. We're talking about the Friday guy for a while there, right? But at the same time, like you knew he was not going to, barring some weird waiver thing now in the NCAA, wasn't coming back. So, again, same thing with Dylan Hoyle and JT Benson. Like those are tough losses, but like you knew going into the year that those guys weren't going to probably be on our 2025 previews. So I think for me, like the tough one, again, like even Isaac Humphrey, like that one, you kind of thought he was going to be done. And then all of a sudden he's going to Ole Miss. So like those ones, I guess, aren't as tough, I guess, to say as to swallow as a Gavin Keelan, who you're thinking is going to be a big part of your core in 2025.
Right. I agree with that. I thought, that one was tough to take when that was announced, because, he's the only guy that was a consistent member of that roster, the lineup, basically, because Dan McDonald loved to make some changes, and I think it's going to be a lot of the same this year. I don't know how quickly they're going to be able to settle on a routine lineup, and we'll get into that. But yeah, Gavin Keelan for me is a huge loss, and I think he's set to have a big year for the Vols.
The Vols.
But you also bring in a ton of key newcomers. I didn't even get to list all the recruits, but there's just some of the new names that have come in. And, before we get on to the rotation, who are you most excited about in terms of the key newcomers, key newcomers for Louisville?
I don't know if there's one that just stands out to me that I'm like, oh, this is the home run guy. I think just the amount of depth they added. I mean, they probably did the most in the portal, it feels like, of the teams we've talked about so far, like in terms of pure numbers. But obviously, right, look at the list of departures. You're going to have to find them somehow.
Tomorrow's list will also be daunting in that regard because
that's true. That's true.
Louisville actually brings back, I think, 16 guys. Miami brings back a total of 6.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So instead of key departures for Miami, it just says people coming back.
It's fun because I've seen a couple of these guys before. I've seen Garrett Pike when he was at Toledo. Again, a lot of ETSU matchups. I don't want to say this wrong. Bayram.
I think that Bayram sounds right.
Yeah, but again, the Marist tie for Louisville went well last year with Dylan Hoy. So
right,
I'm excited about that again.
And that's the second Marist guy that is coming to the ACC. Well, the first for our list because Ethan Conrad at Wake Forest.
Very true. So I think that's something to be excited about. Brendan Cutts from Indiana State comes in with some, he's probably the most exciting Peter Michael's got some, potential as well from Northwestern. But I don't know if I don't think there's a single guy I look at where it's like, for example, like we just talked Georgia Tech yesterday, like Kyle Lodise, you're like, oh my gosh, like home run. This is the guy we're so excited to see. How's it going to translate from the D2 level? I mean, he was arguably the best player in Division II last year. Like, how do you with this Louisville guy, like, again, I think they added a lot of quality depth, but I don't know if there's a single guy I'm like, this is the home run superstar that is going to change the entire Louisville program.
I've got one I'm excited about on that list.
What? Who? Let me hear it.
Tage Davis.
Okay.
First baseman, freshman. I mean, he had a hell of a fall. I don't know if you were able to. Their fall was a little bit earlier than a lot of teams. They were in September a little bit more than, October. But he was hitting home runs left and right. Mm-hmm. I think he could be in the conversation to start at first base. And then Nate Early, I got to see a little bit of up in the Cape. I thought he was really fun to watch. So those are two guys that I'm really excited about for Louisville.
Yeah, I mean, Monty, can it be February 14th yet?
Soon. Let's get into that. Let's get into that rotation. By the way, Louisville had the worst ACC pitching staff by conference stats last year. So they're going to need some improvements. Let's take a look at those rotation options. I'm wearing his jersey right now. We got Patrick
Show it
Forbes.
for the people. Show it for the people. Yeah. This is a Patrick Forbes podcast. Monty, you had your headphones off. I don't know if you heard me yelling it, but
I did.
We are Team Patrick Forbes on this podcast. If you slander Patrick Forbes in our comments, in our DMs, anywhere, if I see you in public, you'll catch – I won't actually fight you, but just know in my head I'm beating you up because – we don't take that type of slander around here.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about Tate McKee of Georgia Tech, but Patrick Forbes is going to be in that conversation as well for ACC Pitcher of the Year. I actually feel more confident about Patrick Forbes, his Team USA performance, his Cape Cod performance. I mean, I was like, I would look for his starts for Cape Cod, and I'm like, I have to watch at least the first 4 or 5 innings that he's pitching, and he was. And
guys, Monty's not lying. Monty would literally text me, Patrick Forbes just shoved again. Like, that's literally what on Monty's conference. Like, I'd get a text at 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern. I'd be on my way to an Appy League game, and he'd be like, Patrick Forbes is shoving it again. Oh, yeah, he just struck out the side. Like, I mean.
He had an immaculate inning, I think, in his first outing up there. Absolutely sensational. I mean, I'm as high on Patrick Forbes as you can be. I think he's going to force his way into the first round conversation.
That's the best part, Monty. That's my Valentine's Day starter. Yep. Come on. Come on, is there a better way to spend Valentine's Day than Patrick Forbes shoving it down Texas's throat? Pause.
Phrasing.
Oh,
You talked about Brennan Cutts, and I'll let you talk about him a little bit more, but I'm also really high on these two rising sophomores. They're going to be featured in my sophomore breakout article. These are two highly, highly, highly recruited guys that got a lot of experience as freshmen, and I think are going to make big jumps as sophomores.
when does that article drop, Monty? I'm going to give you a chance to plug yourself. Will that be out when the podcast goes out or no?
It should be out by now. By the time that podcast, it was submitted out before recording today, so it should be well out by this episode. So if you want to check that out, it's on Just Baseball. It's the breakout sophomore pitching class. Parker Detmers and Colton Hartman are both talked about extensively. It's a very long article, but if you're just looking for those two, you can just skip on to those two.
And we'll do our best too. I mean, Monty, I know we finally got you access to the Just Means Less, and not that you need my approval because you have full range of the account, but make sure you share that because I know people are going to want to see that. Obviously, go check out what Just Baseball does because Tyler's over there too, right?
Yep, Tyler
Jennings. So
Tyler Jennings and Jared Perkins.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great guys obviously doing some great stuff there at Just Baseball. So free shout out to them because obviously they brought you on. Genius idea on their part, but obviously go check that out. But
yeah,
let's talk to my guy Brennan Cutts. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Talk Brennan
Cutts. I was going to say, I mean, he was the MVC pitcher of the year. I mean, he didn't pitch right. I think in the fall, is that correct? At least he didn't pitch in the Indiana exhibition. I know you may.
I think he pitched in the. I think he did pitch in one of them.
Okay, but I mean, you're talking about the conference pitcher of the year in a very talented conference in the MVC. I remember
did they get multiple teams in because Evansville got in, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I remember talking about them last year, because think about it. That was Louisville's opening weekend last year was they faced them down in Tampa.
Yep.
So I remember talking about him when we were kind of previewing what to expect and to see him, obviously. I mean, I think Forbes is going to be your Friday guy, but you have someone that can push Forbes for that Friday spot. And we kind of saw it last year for a little bit, right? Like Gongora stayed on the Friday, but it kind of wasn't that Gongora was the ace anymore.
Yeah, Evan Webster had a fantastic year, yeah.
So, like, in a way, you see it, not wanting this for Forbes, but maybe you see Cutts gets the Friday and Forbes gets the Saturday because that kind of worked well for Louisville last year, having their better guy on that Saturday. I know when Virginia and Louisville met, guess who smoked Virginia on that Saturday? Evan Webster and Louisville did. So, that's something to kind of keep an eye on. Like, I'm not saying that – I don't want to say that's a principle, right, for the staff over there, but maybe they saw how that worked last year, and it gives them a chance to have those Sundays be a toss-up where a guy like Parker Detmers, who I'm very high on, I liked what he brought last year, and Colton Hartman, either or, whoever ends up kind of floating into that Sunday role, maybe you want to play that game where you have that opportunity to – again – because let's call it what it is, right? Like if Cutts is your Friday, that's still a pretty good Friday guy. It's not like you're trotting out, a no name out here or some true freshman to kind of see if he can sink or swim. But yeah, this is a rotation that again maybe isn't. I'll speak for this. Monty. I don't know if you've gone into our DMs or not for the Just Means Less account, but we're in a lot of ACC baseball groups.
It's crowded.
We're in a lot of ACC. Yeah, we're actually somewhat popular. It's crazy. I mean, not that popular, but like. Popular enough, but the ACC, there's a couple of ACC baseball chats and even college baseball chats we're in, and people are pranking them. And someone brought up, and I don't think they realized I was in the group chat. And my poll with Louisville at 21, I think is where I had them, 21 or 22. And they're like, "What the heck does this guy see in Louisville? They stunk last year. Like, you're crazy." And I'm sitting there like, you don't know what this pitching staff looks like, and this lineup's just going to be just as good as last year. I mean. Obviously, it's kind of a running joke, but we'll get to the lineup here shortly. That lineup's about as deep as about anyone in this conference. So.
Which for Dan McDonald can be dangerous because he's got so many options and he likes to try and figure them out.
He does love the old chess match of like, let's try. That was.
Checking my box scores early on in the season was a lot of fun. You'd have like 22 players getting.
My favorite was we honestly, Monty, we might have to play a game called each day you and I have to like guess the lineup.
Guess the
And we'll
lineup.
just tally up, like what spot they are in the order and everything, and just see how many we get right. We might hit 50. It'll be like a baseball batting average, Monty. If we're hitting accurate 350, we're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be pretty funny. I like that. The key relievers, they didn't add a ton of big transfers. If you guys saw, Peter Michael from Northwestern and Brendan Cutts were the two big transfer names, but they did go into the JUCO ranks a little bit. They brought in, Eli Hoyt. They get some guys back from injury like Wyatt Danilowicz and Jared Lessman. But the big three I'm really excited about are those three guys at the top of that list there. And I'll let you talk about the first one on that list.
Well, I mean, Tucker Biven, right, it's tough. Last year in Charlotte, right, was it Clemson game 1 or Miami? No, Miami was game 1. Right?
Yeah, Miami was game 1, Clemson was game 2.
Where Tucker kind of struggled, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it was his fault they lost, right? We don't want to throw that out there, but he did struggle and went down the stretch, and Tucker was the guy that all year was the one guy out of that bullpen you felt comfortable with. Because let's just call it what it was. I mean, the bullpen last year for Louisville was a hodgepodge of flip a coin, and it felt like a lot of times they were guessing wrong on the coin toss. I mean, it just wasn't. It wasn't consistent. I mean, I think Ty Stark deserved more innings than he got. That he was obviously, he's a tall, lanky freshman last year, of course. Now, obviously, sophomore lefty. But, I mean, Tucker itself has the stuff. I mean, getting to see him pitch, as much as I did last year, I mean, there's a reason to be excited about him. I mean, I'm curious, right, because he was your closer guy. Are you going to make him that again this year? Is he going to be more of a long reliever? I mean, I need to reach out to his dad and see if his dad can give me a little bit of like, hey, what's Tucker been up to? What are they kind of working? Are they stretching him out a little bit more? Like, because he has the stuff. I mean, I think, we kind of saw that like last year, right? Like Tucker's second time through the lineup is where he struggled. If he was going in for a longer like save situation, it was that second time through the order where he just couldn't, like the hitters must be able to read him well a second time around. I mean, again, I wouldn't pretend like I know exactly how the scout worked for him, but I mean, you have to feel good about that. I mean, I'll let you go on the rest, but I think Justin West is a name that, I think I'm getting excited about because he's someone that, I mean, let's call it what it was last year. I wasn't, writing too much about, but you have a reason to be excited about what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Justin West. I mean, I thought he looked really good at times in the Cape. I mean, he was up in the Cape playing for the Bourne Braves, and he came out of the bullpen in 8 games through 15 innings, which is a pretty solid amount for a reliever up there. And 25 strikeouts, just 6 walks. Had an ERA of exactly 3. I mean, that's really good stuff in the Cape. He was up there, obviously, looking really good, and I think he's an underrated arm in that bullpen. I think him and Ty Stark are going to be a lot of fun in front of Tucker Biven. And then Peter Michael did impress me a bit this year in the fall. His numbers are not great at Northwestern, but you don't want to put too much stock into that. When it's just 10 innings, but yeah, not great numbers for him last year at Northwestern, but I think he's going to be an integral part of the bullpen.
Oscar's doing his best Clemson behind home plate antics to distract you, Monty. You did a great job. So
I like it.
That's a tough place to pitch. So way to dial it in right there. But
there's kind of how I expect the staff to look now. Keep in mind,
Hartman on Sunday over Detmers. Okay.
Well, I mean, Hartman had the role last year. That's why.
That's true.
I couldn't figure out which one would do it.
Ty Ghost is the guy that had it last year. Is a good choice.
That's what I did. So you can those two names are interchangeable for me. I think whichever one doesn't win the Sunday job will be your midweek guy, unless you really, really want them coming out of the bullpen, as a stronger arm.
Yeah. No, I mean I like that a lot. Again, obviously your relief face is Tucker Biven, but between Justin West, Ty Stark, I think the best part is some of the more nastier arms they have are those lefties. And I think too, the other reason why I like the Hartman choice on Sunday is also because he provides that lefty look that you don't get from Detmers. Yeah. So giving that lefty in, the rotation, I think is obviously beneficial because right? That's the one thing the ACC, I think there's a big reason why Florida State has been so successful. They've had so many good lefties that like you want to kind of have that ability to kind of switch it up on what it is, a powerful lineup, right, in the conference. I mean, almost every team, even the ones at the bottom, can hit. Like we were talking about Virginia Tech. We're not sure what to think of them. We know they can hit.
Yep.
Notre Dame, we know they can hit. Like they have guys in the lineup that are obviously explosive. So
yeah, and for me, they're going to have to rely on some freshmen. You know, the two guys I think they're going to end up relying on, Jake Greger and Jack Brown, are going to have to be big. They're going to have to rely. I mean, because if you look at it, behind Stark, West, and Bivin, you've got some question marks there in terms of the depth. You're going to have guys step up, and I think they will. And I think you obviously think they will. That's why you have them ranked at 22 in your personal poll.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's some question marks here beyond those top three. And again, I think you're going to get a lot out of those two guys that suffered injuries, Lessman and Danilowicz. Eli Hoyt, I think, is going to be an important arm as a JUCO guy, and I think you're going to get some really good stuff out of the freshmen.
Yeah.
And now we move on to the fun part of Louisville in trying to figure out what their lineup's going to be. Here's 4 catchers, and that's taking into account that Zion Rose is no longer a full-time catcher because it's a crowded group here. Matt Klein is obviously a stud. I think he's going to be your primary catcher, but again, who knows? But Matt Klein is he just hits, man. He just hits. And, I think he would have been qualified for the batting title if he had a few more at bats for Katuitt in the Cape. He hit 375 in the Cape. But George Baker is a freak and might play left field. That's a guy who didn't play hardly at all. Taggart Tyson was in the transfer portal, decided not to, and he looked pretty good in the fall. But I mean,
well, so like Monty,
I'm going to put the entire infield up for you as well.
I think obviously this summer, shout out to Zion Rose if he watches this. Clearly, he at least knows who we are because he gave me shit in Pulaski, Virginia, for not ranking them or putting them in the bracketology, my last bracketology. So Zion, I'm sorry, but I asked him, like, do you plan to catch in 25? He's like, he didn't say he was done catching, right? But he was like, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. And I think, again, he didn't say this directly. This is my taking what he said to me and making an opinion. I think it's because of George Baker being right there. Like, why
defensively, he's so good.
Correct. Why would you have Zion Rose be your backup catcher when you can? He's athletic enough to be in the outfield, or again, he has enough pop to be a potential DH if you want to give him a day off from the outfield. Why would you put him behind home plate when you've got a great option behind Matt Klein? And again, no disrespect to Zion Rose, but from the catcher's position, Matt Klein's a really good option too. So I think that makes sense. I mean, that's crazy that they have, like, there are 3 guys on the roster that legitimately could be starters at a few ACC schools, maybe even half the ACC schools behind home plate. Especially offensively, or in obviously Baker's case, like defensively. I mean, the infield is obviously a question. But
I mean, a question in who's going to play, because
correct.
they're all going to play.
And there's no real minus Alex Alicia, there's no one that's like it's established. This is the guy. Like, this is who's returning. This is who you expect. Like I like the Nate Early pick. Obviously hot at short, Monroe at third, but and like you said, Neighbors could take that role too.
I think a lot of people would probably put Neighbors there, but I mean,
Tanner Jiver is someone that I watched them. I went to his PG page and was really impressed what I saw from him. So again, I'm not saying he takes that role, but he's someone that could push for that role. And again, look like he too has the athleticism to where he could potentially move over to a third base if needed, or play that second base position. So he looks like someone that could be kind of more of a utility infielder. So I really like, and again, talking about Davis at first as well. I mean, that's some young freshmen that can kind of step up in roles, and Davis, based off what I could tell, has some pop. So more, not saying that he's not a defensive skilled player, but I was like, offensively, he could be someone too that if, again, Dan McDonald loves to figure out what works and what doesn't. He might get his chance to prove himself even at the DH position if things aren't working. I mean, for a guy like Eddie King, who I'm assuming will pop up in the outfield at some point here in a second.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like I said, might project Neighbors, but I can't get over Jake Monroe hitting 415 with 17 doubles, 2 homers, 23 homers, 81 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, and then walking 40 times versus just 22 strikeouts at the junior college level. Like I think the JUCO numbers speak for themselves, and it'll be interesting to see if Jake Monroe is able to claim that third baseman starting job. But a lot of these jobs I have, on our spreadsheet, I have four of the 9 positions kind of open for up for grabs.
Do you think there's any? I know we're not talking the lineup in terms of like the batting order, but do you think there's any world where Neighbors gets the nod at third just because he's a switch hitter?
He could, and he might get them.
I just was interested because you look at the lineup, right? Just based off what we see right now, and I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I know Early's a lefty, but Monroe is obviously a righty. Hott's a righty. Alicia's a switch, right?
Yeah. Do you want to revisit this in a
yes.
little bit?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Good idea, Monty. I'll take a segment away.
Well, no, it's fine. It's just we'll have all those things up on the screen for you to see. So
God, that outfield's so good.
That outfield's insane.
Oh, that outfield's so good.
I think Garrett Pike will probably be your right. I think Eddie King might be your DH.
Yeah.
And then Garrett Pike in right, Lucas Moore in center, Zion Rose in left, and then you've got Michael Lippy, who's also really, really good, and then you've got some talented freshmen to kind of fill it out there. I mean,
I could see that Zion Rose, Eddie King Jr. almost like competition for who's the everyday outfielder and then who's the DH.
And then you can just kind of mix it as you need to.
And Michael Lippy's a great guy to have off the bench.
Yeah, exactly.
Situation. I mean,
right.
I honestly kind of feel for the kid because he starts in a decent amount of outfields in this country.
Yeah, and it's going to be an exciting time to watch Louisville, but he's going to play because Dan McDonald loves to get guys in there.
I'm sure the one day like we're thinking he's clearly not going to play is the one day he'll go 3 for 4 and start, and then the matchup will take him out of the lineup and we'll question everything. But that's my favorite thing, Monty, is I do like Dan's approach of like. It's almost like I would hate to be a visiting like opposing manager against him because you have no idea how to game plan because he really is kind of like he doesn't just look at this guy's hot right now, we're going to keep him in the lineup, because there were times where like why is he coming out of the lineup, but then the matchup made sense and then the matchup works. It's like again that's why he's taking these teams to Omaha and why he gets paid to do what he does. But I mean I'm just ready to talk the lineup when we get to that point.
Yeah, real quick, Lucas Moore, how many stolen bases do you think he's going to have?
75. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, he had 48 over the summer.
I know. I mean, he could have. I mean, we talked. Who was it we talked about, Monty, that had a bunch at the junior college range, or was it
Kyle Lodis?
It's Lodis for the D2 then. Okay, so does he hit that? Does he hit Kyle's number in D2 here, like a 24?
Absolutely. I think so. I mean,
and especially with how much Dan likes to run. I mean,
if he gets the playing time, I think he will, because last year he was 17 of 21 in, it says he played in 48 games, but I don't know how many of those were starts.
And just
based on my
make
stats.
An appearance in a pinch run or whatever.
Right, or a defensive replacement. So I would think 24 is a reasonable expectation if he's the full-time center fielder.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but let's get into what you want to get into. Here's our potential lineup. There's our guy Zion Rose,
dark horse for Player of the Year.
There you go. And there's Eddie, there's Eddie King Jr. So I don't know if you noticed, I got 3 of the 5 Louisville captains as the pictures for the graphics here. With Tucker Biven,
swagger too. So
Tucker Biven was the graphic for the pictures. So I got 3 of the 5. Captains.
I am sad that Dylan Hoy's gone though, because still to this day, one of the most electric things I've ever watched was him just basically just telling the entire Clemson bench to come fight him.
I did post that as one of my moments of the.
I love that, Monty. When you posted that, like you made my heart so happy because I
got the whole clip.
Don't get me wrong, like I get why Clemson people hate him. It was cocky. I get all that stuff, but like
entertainment value is through the roof.
And the thing is too, like I call it what it is. I think Louisville wins that game because Hoy did that.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
He got the boys going. Like sometimes you have to be, excuse my French, a douche to kind of just get some things rocking. I mean, this team plays with so much. I mean, my favorite part, Monty, this summer, watching Zion Rose with the Team USA like I guess was that the select team. I can't remember which. I think it was the Stripes. I don't know. Whatever the freshman going into sophomore year team was the competitiveness of him. Like you would have like on the on deck circle, like fully invested in the guys on base. He was talking, in the dugout about what he's seeing. He's, celebrating like as if like beating the Appy League West All-Star team booked his trip to Omaha kind of thing. Like the competitive nature, and that Eddie King Jr. is the same way. I mean, the swagger that he plays with and just the energy and the juice. Like this is the team that like when they're not playing well is really fun to hate on. I'm sure if you're a hater, because like they kind of get, like, again, if you're going to give it, you got to be willing to take it. But man, do they have fun. And again, like when Tucker Bivin gets going, his energy that he brings. I mean, anyways, this lineup though, I mean, I love it, Monty. I love it.
Yeah, and you brought up, I mean, could you see Neighbors come in there as a switch hitter for somebody? Absolutely. I mean, I like how I put this together. Again, this is me completely guessing, and I just really like the thought of Lucas Moore, Zion Rose, and Matt Klein, and then Eddie King in that 1 through 4. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about.
Yeah. So beautiful. I love it.
So, but yeah, you can see Neighbors there could slide in. I mean, you've got a lot of balance on the bench as well. I mean, look at that left, right, switch right. And then you've got 2 lefties, 2 righties, and a switch hitter on the bench. I mean, you've got every matchup you want, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you look at it too. I mean, you've got a lot of speed. I mean, Eddie King's your 4-hole hitter. I mean, we know how much Dan likes to run, right? Yeah, I mean, this is the type of team that might steal a run or two every single game from you, just by again, basically 1 through 5 having some serious speed. I mean, Garrett Pike's pretty quick too. So if I remember correctly, he stole a bag or two against ETSU in his Toledo time. So this is a team that I think you look at it and you got to be excited about. And again, seeing Alex Alicia at the 8 spot, I mean, he's someone that, again, I think obviously he's not the 9 to turn the lineup back over, but he's someone late in that batting order that's pretty good about getting on base and kind of, if I remember correctly, Monty, he does a really good job of battling and kind of working pitch counts and stuff like that. So if the bare minimum have that as your 8-hole spot, that's pretty good to have.
I mean, as a freshman, he had 18 strikeouts and 18 walks. I mean, that's pretty impressive. But yeah, no, I think he's one of the more underrated players on Louisville in the conference because, Zion Rose is and Lucas Moore are the sophomores that are going to get a little bit more attention. But, he's a really, really solid middle infielder. He can play shortstop as well. I mean, I believe he was in that competition, but I would imagine he probably stays at second base.
And you have me so excited for Jake Monroe because, like, again, I'm not saying that I wasn't as excited, but like you've just got me more because, again, like, right, he was really good at the JUCO level, and again, I said it in I think our Florida State podcast, right? I love when teams go to that JUCO rank because I think in a way it's almost more beneficial than grabbing a guy that produced at a mid-major school or maybe was again a higher talented recruit that sat the bench at a SEC or other ACC schools or whatever. Especially
if you're in a JUCO in the state of Florida.
Correct. And again, when you're putting up numbers like that, I mean, we've seen it, right? Those are some of the best players in the country that either got slept on when they were coming out of high school, or again, let's just call it what it is. Sometimes they're just the kids that aren't as good as the school side of the athletic, the student athlete world. So they have to get their grades up, and doesn't mean they can't play at this level. They just unfortunately weren't academically ready yet. So I mean, this is a lineup that, like, I'll say this publicly, Monty. I am upset. I don't know. I don't think you ranked them, and that I'm not, but I'm upset that there's not a lot of talk about Louisville even nationally. Like I think PG listed them at 38. So that was the first time I saw Louisville even mentioned by any national like groups. Like I would love, I mean, obviously, Monty, that podcast you released with Aaron Fitt was really good. I wish you would have asked him what his thoughts are on Louisville, because I'm curious like what some of these D1 guys think.
Yeah, I would have loved to have had Aaron for longer than like 30 minutes because I'm
sure there's a lot of things you wanted to ask him too. So.
Yeah, because I could and by the way, that conversation that we had in the podcast, I have to be careful when we're in a press box because that's I want to just ask him questions when we're in the press box, but I'm like, he needs to go work, and so do I. But like, I'm constantly picking his brain because obviously he's one of the guys that really gets around and he's really good at what he does. But Yeah, I would have loved to have talked about Louisville and more of the ACC schools, but by the time I looked at the clock, I was like, I got to wrap this up. But talking about this schedule, Valentine's Day against Texas, I hear somebody's got a date with Louisville, February 14th, and his name is Micah Butel.
Love
Texas
in the air, baby.
Oklahoma State, Arizona, all teams ranked in the CBC top 25. It's a brutal weekend, but they will get tested, and that rotation will get tested. That staff will get tested, and then they can kind of, hopefully have a little bit more of a balanced schedule. Xavier is not exactly a pushover necessarily. St. John's is a tournament team, but you got Cincinnati, you got Indiana, you got the Kentucky and Vanderbilt series in there as well. It's got a pretty tough non-conference schedule. And then the ACC schedule, they got some games.
The best part about this, Monty? I can read this graphic and know what our home and away games. We're making progress here, Monty. Shout out to Louisville's creative team. This is what I like to see.
Little do you know, no.
Anyway, actually, Jim Patterson Stadium's actually not their home stadium. But honestly, man, this is a very good, I like how they're testing themselves again. And I think, too, it's also beneficial, right, that they're actually going to get all 3 games in this time around in the opening season, where obviously last year, right, they had the weird weather that threw everything for a loop.
So they only got the 2 with UConn.
They only got the 2, right? Yeah, exactly. And then obviously, and those games, too, I think one was at 9 a.m. or something stupid. And then the other one was at 4 p.m. So it's just a whole mess.
Yeah, I think the third game they were supposed to get was the host team was UCF, I think.
Yeah, correct. It was, yeah. So and it was just, again, just trying to fit games in and travel time. It was a mess. Where obviously you're playing at Globe Life. So I think they can open the roof, but even if not, right, they can close the roof. So, you'll get all 3 games in. And I think the best part is you're going to get tested, because I don't want to say that Louisville is going to be the road team in all 3 games, but just assuming distances, at least for Texas and Oklahoma State, you're going to be the road team. There's going to be more Cowboys and Longhorns there just because the convenience of the trip.
I would imagine Arizona as well.
And also, too, let's call it what it is. Louisville fans, rightfully so, are very excited about what's going on with basketball right now. So I don't know if they're home or away, but it is still basketball season in the first weekend of February. So, and again, they also play at home a ton.
I can't imagine why anyone would want to miss a Patrick Forbes shove day.
I mean, I 100% agree, but that's besides the point. But, at the end of the day, right, Xavier's a very good team to play in that first home opener. St. John's is a fantastic weekend. I think Lipscomb's a very underrated midweek to grab as well. Yep. So you've got some teams. Again, we argued it on the Duke show, but you like Cincinnati. That's going to be a good one for a midweek, obviously, there in Cincy. Indiana's a good midweek. Kentucky's a good midweek. Western Kentucky's one of the better Conference USA teams. So they have a good, again, Vanderbilt. I almost missed them. They have really good midweeks, that are going to boost their RPI, which is beneficial, win some of those games. And I think too, getting Virginia Tech on the road and Notre Dame on the road are more beneficial than maybe playing them at home if our expectations are correct on those teams, because that'll help your RPI as well. Georgia Tech on the road, which I thought was at home at first, but in that last show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is a schedule again, right? But it's also, at Clemson, at NC State, those are brutal. You've got some of the top. I mean, you've got 3 teams that went to Omaha. 4 teams that went to Omaha. 4 teams that went to Omaha last year on your schedule. So that's a pretty difficult, little slate there. They're gonna have to earn their keep this year. But I think, Monty, I guess you're probably gonna segue it, but I am curious, what is a successful season for Louisville is in your eyes?
This was kind of what I was going to segue. So perfect. I think NCAA tournament's a successful season for Louisville. I think they need to get back. I think that's a successful season.
What's the expectation? If, for example, what is the bar? If you're saying NCAA tournament's this successful season, which I think is obviously fair. But are you saying that if they miss the tournament, is that a failure of a season then?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So that line is pretty much field of 64. Good year, bad year. There's not an extra.
Yeah.
For example, when we talked Clemson, the expectation is not just get in, right? It's
right. But I think for Louisville, it is NCAA tournament or bust.
Okay. Yeah, because if they miss this year, man,
that'd be 3 straight years.
And this is a program that we've talked about, right? Like the player side of the facilities are kind of lacking a little bit. We'll just call it what it is. This is a fan base that, is loyal, but if basketball starts to get relevant again, not that the love for baseball just disappears, right? But if it's kind of like what's happening in the opposite of Virginia right now. Everyone's super amped about spring sports way earlier than they normally are because basketball stinks. So, it's something to kind of keep an eye on because this is a program, right, that, you and I mean, I think your hat, right, is from Omaha, like the Omaha year on it. Like, was that?
Yeah,
8?
I think.
What year is that, Monty? 19, 20?
2019.
2019. So I think that's the last time they went too, right?
I think
they didn't go in 21 or 22. Yeah, there's the last
obviously
time
didn't go in 20.
So, I mean, let's call it what it is, right? If you haven't made the, to Omaha, a program like this, it doesn't make it to Omaha, let alone what that'd be one tournament appearance since 2019. It's going to be hard to continue to sell that program when, I don't want to hype up an SEC team, but your rival school down the road just made it to Omaha. Like you don't want to keep, letting that gap get closer and closer and closer. So I agree with you, Monty. This is a very big year for Dan McDonald and his staff. And again, we both believe in them, right? I ranked them for a reason. I think this is a super regional potential Omaha type team. So, if all things I think their ceiling is Omaha. And again, we say that, right? If you make the Omaha, then you're a national title contender. But it's going to be, again, we're going to have to see how these arms click. And, I think if they can develop some depth in the pitching, like if they can actually develop a consistent bullpen, this team is very, very dangerous because that was obviously what killed them last year because literally no lead felt safe.
Yep. So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see. We're excited about Louisville. But that's going to do it for us on Louisville. We got to move on to Miami tomorrow night or, the next episode. But until then, it just means less.